welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are here today to do another one of our On Friendship episodes, and we are talking about Love at First Dance. This is a 2018 film, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Alysa is here.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. So, how have you been? Have you been holding out? Have you been doing? It's been a crazy time.
It is. I mean, with COVID and everything going on, it's a little stressful. My anxiety is high, but doing what I can to support people around me and to take care of myself, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
And I've watched a lot of movies, and apparently I've been watching more than Rachel. So take that, Rachel.
Yeah. I know. It's been so impressive on your Facebook. I just look at it, I'm just like, wow. That you've been beating me 100%. Have you been streaming most of them, or have they just been films you've owned, or a mixture?
Even when I've owned them, I've seen if they were streaming, because I don't know if my DVD player works anymore. And that, to kind of give you a sense of what's going on, it's I want to watch movies, but I don't have the energy to check on my DVD player. So everything has been streamed, and I'm gonna use air quotes, which listeners can't see, but I have access to Netflix, Hulu with HBO, Disney Plus, YouTube TV, and Amazon.
Yeah.
And some of them I've rented, a few I've paid for, but most of them I've been able to watch through those services. So. And Apple TV Plus.
Would you say there's a genre that you've been leaning towards?
Since I started watching a movie every night since quarantine started back in March, and sometimes I watch multiple movies, but I have seen it more as like an escape or a way to relax at the end of the day after I was teaching classes, and now that I'm in summer break, just a way to relax. And so I would say I've leaned more towards action movies, or movies that I'm really comfortable with from the 80s that remind me of my childhood. And I have done a lot more romance, which might be exciting for you and the listeners, because that's much more of Hallmarkies' alley, so to speak. But I've watched a lot of new romance. It's not usually the genre I would lean towards. It doesn't necessarily mean it's something I have an issue with or anything like that, but I just watched Leap Year and About Time and Confessions of a Shopaholic, and
that movie was so disappointing. I love the book. I didn't think it was very good.
I haven't read the book. I love Isla Fisher. She's just like a little full of sunshine. So I was okay with it. But yeah, that's sort of what I've been leaning to. So if any Hallmarkies out there have any movies to recommend, or if Rachel, you would like to demand me to watch anything, please let me know. I have a Google Doc where I'm listing everything that I've watched, movies, TV, and then I also have a special section for like docs, like the Michael Jordan 30 by 30 or other things like that. And then I have a list of things that I want to watch. So, so feel free to recommend. Keep Alysa busy this summer.
Very good. Well, so this Love at First Dance, I wanted your opinion on it, because I think it's kind of an interesting film in the world of Hallmark. This came out in 2018. It was written by our friend Nina Weinman, who was our first interview that we ever had, and has been on our show 5 times, and is a writer, Nina. And we love her. She's awesome. And I feel like, especially given a June Brides movie, this one isn't really about, the lead character isn't the bride, so it's a little bit different in that area. And it's a tricky balance of when you have a romance where the two lead characters are with other people, or at least he is in this case, and yet you obviously don't want cheating. But I feel like they do a really good job in this of walking that line, and really respecting the other woman character in a way that's not usually done with our Ice Queens of Business. Like, she's not an Ice Queen of Business.
She's in business.
And so just,
queen. She's just not an ice queen.
Exactly. And I feel like it's just a really sweet, lovely little movie. But I know it's one that's a little bit divisive, so I'm curious. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts and what you think about it. And I just thought it would be an interesting one to talk about, that it kind of has some things to say, and would be I feel like it's also pretty well made for a Hallmark movie. It's actually shot in New York City, at least portions, which gives it a level of quality I think that you don't typically
credible
have.
Like,
yes.
New York City, you're literally in New York City, or it's as close as you can be.
So, overall, what was your overall take on the film? Did you like it? Not like it? What did you think?
I was somewhere in between, I think. I really liked the main character, Hope, and I know that there was a lot going on with this particular story. I thought it was interesting that she left her previous partner, Peter, because it didn't feel right.
Right.
And so I think that's an interesting aspect of it. I don't think that is something I've seen in any of the Hallmark movies that I've seen where, like, the woman left, or, like, because it wasn't right, and that was okay, and her mom was supportive of it. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist in Hallmark. Friends, remember, I grew up watching Lifetime, and so Rachel has been schooling me on Hallmark through On Friendship and the Christmas movies, so I'm trying to play catch up. So understand that you're probably thinking of 7 movies where you're like, Alysa, you need to see this. Well, please recommend. But I thought that was really interesting. But and I like the playoff that she didn't get married, and here she is, always wanted to be someone on Broadway, either dancing or in this case like being a choreographer. But instead, she's teaching couples how to dance for their wedding. So here she is witnessing everyone's weddings, but she didn't have her own, which I thought was an interesting take. And she wasn't bitter about it or anything like that. Like it. But I also thought what was interesting about it was that the decision that she had to make between owning a dance studio or going off to London for choreography, right? So I thought in terms of this movie, I was really focused on her, and I realized that Eric Gunderson and Adriana, like, are part of that, and we'll talk about that relationship, but I really like the journey for Hope herself. And
I do too.
I really like that her friend Cassidy was there. I just wish Cassidy was there for more of the movie. She was there more at the beginning, but maybe not there for later decisions, which I think as decisions become more complicated and difficult for someone, that is definitely when you would want to seek out a friend. So that was probably one of my critiques of it. It was like, I want more Cassidy, because obviously friendship. But I really liked Hope's journey. So what did you think, Rachel?
Yeah. I really like it. I think it's really good. I like the fact that she's not asked to choose between a man and her career. She's asked to pick between something that's good, which is running the studio. That's a good choice. But between something that's a little bit braver, but also good.
Yeah.
And so doing the choreography and trying that out. And I thought that was definitely something that, you know, we can all relate to when you have moments that I feel like rarely in life are you deciding between something that's like horrible and something that's great. You know, that most of the time you're making a decision between most of the time you're making a decision between you know, like gradations of what you want to do, what's the right fit for you, and you know, trying things out. And I compare it. There's a movie called "'Tis the Season of Love," also written by Nina, which was years ago.
Yeah,
I know, which is a good movie. But in that movie, I can't agree. I didn't like the ending of the movie. Spoiler alert, I guess. But she goes back to she has this dream of being on Broadway. She's auditioning on Broadway. She wants to be on Broadway. She goes home and she meets the ex at home. She realizes that she can make this difference being a teacher, and she ends up getting the part that she wanted, her dream role on Broadway, and she decides to leave Broadway and go back home.
What?
And
no.
I didn't like that. Like, yeah, it bothered me.
Do you see me? I'm like, no, I hate that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
I hate it. It's like, and I'm a teacher, so I'm already like, no, don't go do teaching. But what I mean is, you can do that Broadway role, and then when you're done and you have that experience, you can then teach, right? You can do both. Maybe not at the same time, but unless it's something that truly doesn't work, why not do the role on Broadway if that's always been your dream? And I really see, like, the decisions that Hope is making is something that a lot of people probably make earlier in life to start out with. And that might be how you decide what college to go to, right? If someone is attending college, like, do I go to the one that's in my hometown and I have a full scholarship? Do I go to the one that's 2 hours away and I have half a scholarship? Do I go to the one that's across the country? You know, it's one of those things, like, we make those decisions a lot, like with jobs or with school, and I do think, like, I saw that as very realistic.
Yeah, and I think the idea was, oh, well, she has this new dream. She has this new idea that supplanted her previous dream.
Yeah.
But I think I would have liked it if she, because it's not like it's something that is forever, that she's always going to be in this Broadway play for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
So why not finish it out, do the old dream, and then go on to the new dream?
Exactly. You can do both. You're in charge of your life. Make it happen.
And so I just liked this so much better.
Yeah.
Where here she is presented these two different opportunities. She can be brave, or she can be a little bit more safe, but still good.
Yeah.
Still doing something good with her life. And I really liked also, we'll talk further on. There were some other elements in the movie that I really thought were well done.
Yeah.
And overall, and I kind of like the fact that this movie is barely a romance. Like, it is the beginning to get into that spot where they're starting their romance.
Yeah.
And so the ending is really a beginning, and I think it would be a great movie to get a sequel to.
Oh, absolutely. I would like to see what happens. Like,
yeah,
I liked it enough I'm invested to I think my stuff is minor. Like, obviously I want to see more Cassidy, and then I had some issues with a couple, but
okay, yeah. So we'll talk about it. So yes, so it starts out where she's helping these brides to get ready for their dance. She works at the studio, kind of is setting her up as this dancer in New York City, and we find out that she had this dream to be a choreographer, and that her friend is dancing in a Broadway play for the first time. Very excited. She goes to the theater, but they don't want to let her in at first. And now Mater's character is there, and he's engaged to Adriana, and he basically says, you know, I'm verifiable. I'm, you know, somebody that I should be able to get into the show. And they have this kind of little tiff, this little, like, you can't let him go and not let me go. We're both equally verifiable.
Well, I loved it because he just assumes that he can drop his name or whatever and get in. And the guy is saying to her, but you have to be on the list. Well, clearly not everyone has to be on the list to get backstage to congratulate the people who have just completed this Broadway show. And he can just get in there. So I was like, I already was liking Hope before that, but that really sealed the deal for me. I was like, let him know.
Yeah. And she's like, you're going to treat me the same way that you treat him. We're both not on that list. We're both, just because he has a fancy name doesn't mean anything.
And she's like, and I was here first. So
right.
You're not going to cut me in this line. This guy's going to go find my friend Cassidy, and you're going to get on your little do-do-do, like, walkie-talkie. You're going to find out that I can be verified to be in backstage. And then you can deal with him.
So she says later on that when the thing you love most in your life is your constant source of rejection, it's time to reassess. I'm tired of being disappointed. And, that's an interesting thing because the fact is there's only so many singers, dancers, whatever, that the world can support. And you watch something like American Idol, let's say, and it's just like, there's just too many people who want to be singers.
Yeah.
There's not enough.
Yeah.
There's and amazingly talented, and there's amazingly talented people who aren't going to get the shot they deserve.
Yeah.
And at what point do those people say, okay, I'm going to take a different path? Yeah. Because not everybody gets to live their dream, and that is true.
Yeah, and one of the things, obviously, with, like, American Idol or something like that is that they bring in everybody who's been told by their family and all that they're good singers. And then they have to be told by the judges that they're not, and that's horrible. I also like The Voice, though, because they bring in people who they're, like, invited to come, right? So all these people can sing. But one of the things about it is the person could be 50 years old. And so it really goes, okay, Hope, you've been disappointed. You've been told we're going in a different direction, right? Like, that's the classic rejection line in that industry, right? We've gone in a different direction. And at a certain point, it gets exhausting. But then when opportunities come up, like, if you're 20, 30, 40, a lot of them are like 15, when you get the opportunity to go on The Voice, you do it, because when are you going to have another opportunity? And I'm kind of comparing The Voice to her opportunity to the better of the two decisions that she made.
Because even if you take out the people who aren't good enough, if you just have the people who are amazing, you still have more.
Yeah.
You still have more than what there are roles out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sad truth. And so many people, I think, could probably relate to what Hope is saying here, that, you reach a point where you say, okay, when do I need to take a different path? When do I... but it's a tricky... I mean, I'm not a person in the arts kind of thing, but I have my own sort of creative thing that I produce, I guess.
Yeah.
And there is sometimes where you're just like, it can be frustrating when you put so much work and thought into something and it feels like you're just not able to get to that next level. I mean, I've been very, very blessed to be able to get to that level with the Hallmarkies podcast. So blessed. But I don't know. I know that frustration. And there are times when it's just like, should I just forget it?
Yeah.
And just move on? Would I be
Mm-hmm.
happier than fighting the fight? And I think that she's just tired of fighting the fight.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where she's at right now.
But she also might not have had the right opportunity come to her yet, And so it's one of those things like, protect yourself, but also recognize that if you meet a choreographer or you're introduced to a choreographer backstage once you get let in before Eric Gunderson, that if you meet someone who's like, send me your resume, well, you could say, well, I have the studio, I'll send it in and know that you're in the studio. So if they go in a different direction, then the studio's right for you, right? And if they get a call back, then why not hear it out, right? You never know.
Yeah. So let's talk about Adriana and Ethan. Is it Ethan or Eric? I think it was Ethan.
I thought it was Eric. Uh-oh.
Eric, you're right, Eric. Sorry. I'm always just like...
the name in the movie, but I remember the name of the guy.
I'm always just like, it's Nalmater. I don't remember.
It starts with an E.
Who, by the way, so embarrassing. We had him on, and I literally about 30 seconds before we started the interview, I said, oh, your name is pronounced Nalmater, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, that's the right pronunciation. And then we start, and my quarantine brain says, thanks for coming down the podcast, Nalmater. I'm like,
you're like,
what? You literally just told me 30 seconds ago.
You're like,
I was so embarrassed.
You're like, you start over. Sorry.
Well, and I would have started over, but I actually left it in because I felt like it kind of broke the ice in a weird way. So I felt like it kind of was funny, but it was embarrassing, and I was just like, what is wrong with me? But basically, so you got the impression that Eric and Adriana have grown up together. they have both become heads of this business, family business. She has been almost like adopted as a member of the family.
Yeah.
It seems like to me. And so it's one of those relationships where it was just sort of natural almost to get engaged.
Yeah.
Like that was the natural next step. And
or not even natural, it's just expected by everyone.
Yeah, by everybody involved.
Yeah.
I guess what I liked about Adriana, as I already said, is that she wasn't the ice queen of business. Like, she was a rare woman of business, and especially one of these films, that actually, like, loved her job.
Yeah.
That was awesome at her job and really good at it.
But
and not shamed for doing so.
And still interested in her relationship and things like that. And yeah. So, absolutely.
That's what I really liked about her. And I thought that, yeah, I mean, they had this tricky balance of to try to write this so that you weren't super angry at him. So she had to be sort of disengaged enough, but also not interested enough in Hope to make it feel like cheating. It was a hard dynamic for them to pull off.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you typically see is something like that would be Adriana would be threatened by Hope, and that never happened. And so,
yes,
and so I think that
true.
plays an important role in that line that they're walking with this particular movie, because I think if Adriana, there was some component of the story where she was jealous or concerned about Hope, then everything that followed would seem inappropriate. And so I think that people tend to rely on and go to that sort of trope of, well, if there's another woman, immediately it's a problem, or there's another man, it's immediately a problem. It's like, this woman's gonna help us dance, and that's what she did, right? Yeah. And so I thought that was critical to not seeing it as you're talking about, not wanting to move into the cheating aspect. I think that was a critical aspect of it. So shout out to Nika to not throwing down the jealousy trope. So kudos.
Right. Yes. And so he is going to need 2 to 3 lessons a week.
Because
he is a bad dancer. Holy cow. 2 to 3 lessons a week. And Adriana is too busy, so he's just going to take the lessons. And he is just struggling. He feels kind of empty. He's not connecting with Adriana the way he wants to. And it turns out he wants to invest in a play.
Yeah. And
take that risk, but people don't want him to. He says from the start that he doesn't want to be one of those sort of Wall Street guys. And Hope says, I had you pegged as a Wall Street guy. And then she says, judge a book by its cover, and you might miss out on a good on a good story.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. And she says that he's most worried. He's most worried about looking like an idiot, because I guess he had this cotillion that was a total disaster.
Yeah. And it was on. Yeah. He did it in front of people, so everyone knows, and they don't want him to embarrass anyone else ever again.
Yeah. And they give this guy Gavin, that's a associate of Adriana's, that they're working together. They kind of present him, but evidently they were going to make him her kind of fallback guy.
Oh.
Of, you know what I mean? So she had like a softer place to fall.
Yeah. So
she didn't end up with nobody. But I guess they got cut for time.
Oh.
That Gavin guy.
I didn't miss it.
Yeah. And so I don't know. So that's why you end up seeing this Jason Cermak guy in a couple of scenes. That he's sort of supposed to be more of her kind of situation, and whereas the Almeida character is on a different path.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, did you like that it was filmed in New York City? Do you think that made a difference?
I do. I think because if they're going to be in charge of some major corporation, that's what I would think of it. To me, it has to be filmed in a larger city. I think, like, in New York City, there would definitely be a place and a person that helps couples dance for their weddings. Like, I think, like, all of that makes sense. And with the Broadway, it had to be, right? She wants to be a Broadway choreographer. He wants to invest in a play. That's not happening in North Carolina, no offense, right? Maybe it is, but not to the degree that it would in the Big Apple, right? And so I think to really provide that support to the dance line of it, the storyline, but also the business side of it, I think it was crucial. But what I thought was interesting is that they both have these dreams. Hers have been sort of shot down, and his are by the actual people, right? So she's been rejected. We're going in a different direction. He's rejected essentially by everyone around them. Not that he's voiced it. It's just been clear probably his entire life that he's going to be working in this business because it's the family business for the rest of his life. So it really shoots down this idea of him having any dreams beyond that. And this is a world away from Hallmarkies, but it really... There's a TV show on HBO called Succession, and that family business sort of situation, I got some vibes there. But it is completely... I don't know if folks listening would be on board with Succession. It's very different, but I make the point because it is the family business, and it's sort of like what everyone's a part of. And so there's these expectations, much like the relationship with Adriana. It feels like there's no other option. Like, this is just what you do. You grew up together, and you get married, and you're going to run this business together, and that's just the way it's going to be, without thinking about what people are actually interested in, who they might be interested in. And it just seems like they're just going along this path without really, like, for both of them, she loves her job, but how is she into the relationship, right? And he wants to do these things. How much is he into the relationship? How much is he into the business? And a lot of times people aren't asked those questions. It's just assumed they are supposed to do these things. And I think...
Yeah, and they have those...
I was just going to say in particular... Sorry. No, you're fine. I was just going to say in particular, like, with the New York City background, and maybe, growing up in Michigan, this might be stereotypical, but these high society families that have... Maybe I've watched too much Sex and the City, too. These high society families that have, they're going to have their announcement in these big papers and on page 6, and everyone's going to be there. They want to have a small wedding, but the mothers want this huge wedding because it's for the clients, and the clients are our family and friends. And so I just felt like New York supported all those aspects of the story.
Yeah, and I think if they had done Vancouver as New York, which is what they usually do in Hallmark movies, I don't know, it just wouldn't have been as good. It just wouldn't have, you don't have those long walks where you can see the Brooklyn Bridge in the background. Like,
absolutely.
It just adds a layer of quality to the film that makes it more authentic. And, I mean, it is definitely first world problems, for sure. that, he's like, which job do I want to take? The one that has a little bit of a risk, or the one that's, like, a guaranteed paycheck?
Well, and he also... He's a Gunderson. He tried to throw that name down at the Broadway show to get in when his name wasn't on the list. And I do think his family, it seems like they have lots of money, like, judging by his car and, things like that. So I think he was fine, and I think he enjoyed some of that, but I also think, even though he might have enjoyed some of that, I mean, he also grew up with it, so what else does he know? But he does.
Well, and just because you have first world problems doesn't mean they're not, like, problems. And he deserves to. And if he can actually, like, help people more by doing the creative arts division, like, why not? Why not do it? And so I don't know. It's an interesting thing. It's a different dynamic than you typically see in these Hallmark. Because usually they're the bad man of business.
Oh yeah.
Is the villain, is the other man, is the kind of thing, and and here you have, like, a little bit more subtlety, I think, going on.
Well,
and,
he was the bad man of business standing outside the Broadway show. But then when she had her first meeting with him after that, she realized he was much different than what she
you don't
thought.
Judge a you miss a good story. If you judge a book by its cover, you miss a good story.
Yep.
And so he's terrible at dancing. He especially with Adriana, which says something. Like when he's with Hope, he's not as nervous, and he's able to dance better. And she takes him to the to a wedding of her clients, and she tells him, watch everyone watching the dance. And she said not a single person cares about the performance. They care about the dance. And so you have to let what other people think go. Once we focus on true love, then everything else falls into place.
Yeah, and I think that was an important lesson for him, even if this story ended differently. That was an important lesson for him, because he grew up in a family where appearances are everything. And that puts on a lot of pressure, which probably makes it difficult. And Hope points out later in the movie that when he's dancing with her, it's easier because there's no pressure. Because she's not the one that he's engaged to. It's not this wedding that has to be on show for clients. It's not like he has all these pressures from this particular family that's in the public eye. And so I think that's also a sign that, like, maybe that's not for him, right? Or maybe that Adriana is not for him, or he's not for him.
Yeah, you even have that scene with the two moms who, I think they were supposed to be kind of comic relief. I don't know if you kind of felt that way, or...
I found them to be too much. Like, it made me go,
too much.
Elope. I was like, that's too much pressure. They're flying in napkin rings from a different country. Like, it's too much. It's too much. But, I mean, people want to put in time to their weddings. That's great. I'm not judging that. But it felt like Adriana and Eric didn't have any decisions to be made about their wedding. They were all being made by their moms because, again, it's appearances matter.
Yeah, and there's that whole scene when they're doing the photos of them dancing, and it's just getting more and more awkward, and Hope ends up going with him to get the pick out the flowers, and he tells her he wants to do something transformative, and so it's it's a tough situation, and he ends up holding the cat, and he says, why don't you hold your partner the same way you hold a cat? I thought that would particularly ring true to you.
Absolutely. You have to get in there. You gotta hold. Sorry, that's so funny that I cut out right when you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was great. I chuckled, and then I looked at my cats, and I was like, yes, hold them. Like,
you're like, this is the most romantic thing I've ever heard.
That's the most romantic connection I've had, is me and Rooney dancing in the kitchen. I do pick up my cat. They hate it.
So I think that the whole scene in the pond at Central Park is one of the best scenes of the movie. She's trying to get him to get out of himself and to not worry what other people are thinking, watching them in the water, and to just kind of relax. And I don't know, what did you think of that?
Well, so again, growing up watching Lifetime, that would not have been how the scene would have gone if it was a Lifetime movie, for sure. But I have to say that was a really neat moment for a lot of reasons. One, we've mentioned a lot about the New York background. I think that was critical for a scene like this when they're walking through like Central Park and then just going into a pond, right? And so I think that's really important. The second thing, it goes back to all this pressure he's having. He needs to be able to sort of get loose and let go, and I think she did that in a really neat way. And it wasn't like they were in there forever, so it wasn't like some long thing, but it was enough to make the point that she was trying to make of. And it wasn't just, oh, you need to let go, but it was also sort of, doesn't have any rhythm. So definitely dancing hard. You know, I mean, I say whatever you want when the music comes on, but I know there's a different sort of expectation when people want to see you do a waltz at a wedding, okay? But like when the music comes on and you're in the club or in your kitchen, you do you. Whatever comes to you, that's fine. But I like how like bringing him into the water, like take off your shoes, roll up your pants, and feel like the ebb and flow of the water. I thought was really cool. So I thought there are a lot of important things that happened in that scene that made it really great for the story that I really enjoyed. And again, I don't think that scene, like, I feel like now that I'm being schooled in Hallmark movies, I can anticipate that Hope and Eric are going to get together, and I'm okay with that. That's part of the fun. How do we get to that though? What scenes, what things are they going to do? What's the cute way they're going to meet? What's the first kiss going to be like? What, you know, these are sort of things that I'm learning, right? And I thought the scene was important to the movie without being like in your face about perhaps that they're better for each other. Again, going back to this idea that there was never any sort of like pursuing of each other. It was nothing but, I'm trying to help you out. It is my job. It is kind to do so. I'm trying to help you with more than dancing because that's part of my job and it's kind to do so. And we're getting to know each other and we're enjoying being around each other. But it never felt like overtly romantic in a way where it felt like this was inappropriate to Adriana. And I thought this scene was important to all of those points. So to me, it's not just the best scene; it's the most important scene, I think. Yeah. And she talks about them having that ebb and flow, and him being able to, because it's an important thing because it's a very public thing, but it's also a very intimate thing, and that's what she's trying to get him to do for his dance, is doing something that's both public and intimate at the same time. Yep. So and then only a few scenes later, he tries to get Adriana to go into the pond, and she's not not interested in that at all. With everyone here, you want me to go into the water? And it's like, okay, sometimes timing is a thing. It's like, you know, read the room. We're on our way to something important. We don't have time for this. Or I'm in my most important interview outfit and I'm on my way to interview. Bad timing, right? But Saturday afternoon cash, I think is fine. But so sometimes that's not going to work. But I felt like she wasn't like, this is a bad moment. I think Adriana was saying, that's a bad idea. I would never do that. And so I think he was looking for that connection that he had, or that was something that changed him, where he started to think about things in a new way. And he wanted to have that moment with Adriana. And she was like, no thanks, I'm never getting in a pond. Yeah. Some people, and she's like, and it's probably illegal. Yeah, and he talks to his dad, and his dad says, this is our place in the world. I've had to do my legacy as my father gave to me. And so that's, I mean, it's an interesting thing, his place. Yeah. And is he going to buck that tradition, or is he not? And sometimes it's really nice to know we have a place in the world, but then other times that can be confining. Yeah. But he takes her to go pick out the band, or test out the band, and they have Crazy Love, Michael Bublé playing, so they spent the money. Yeah, I was thinking of you in my head. I was like, oh snap, the budget for the music was high on this one. I remember these conversations with you, Rachel. You are in my head when I'm watching Hallmark. Because I was like, oh, this is a good song for right now, too. I was like, yeah. Yeah. And then Adriana misses the cake testing and the rehearsal, and because she has this client that she wants to meet with. And this is also when Hope decides to not buy the studio. And so she, because she's doing the choreography test, tryout, audition, whatever you want to call it. And so she's going to, give this a go, going to try. And that's also, then they have the whole scene where they walk along the Brooklyn Bridge. And I just thought that was so nice and so well done. And did you feel like they had chemistry? I do.
These two actors?
I do, but I think that
Mm-hmm.
the way the story was written really allowed that to be a platonic friendship until it became more obvious to them both.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, I think they had that underlying chemistry, which helped I think it helped them to sell this platonic relationship because you kind of felt that they didn't have to be obtuse and outright about it because it was there under the surface and you felt it.
But you also see Adriana pulling away in some ways because she's missing all these appointments, and when she asks Eric about it, he says, you choose what's most important to you, which is either him and this dance or the client, and she chooses the client. So that's not to shame her in this situation. It's just what is more important to her. And I don't think anyone who doesn't feel right with each other should be married. so that's not to say like, oh, that was inappropriate on Adriana's part. It's like, no, she loves her job and this is important to her. And I think that from the get-go, to me, like, they almost seemed like, and I have to be honest, that first scene when they're introducing that Eric and Adriana are taking over the business, at first I thought they were brother and sister.
Yeah.
Until, like, they're getting married because, and it's not saying that a couple can't be a couple and then also be professional or that sort of thing, but it just felt like they were just always forced together and they made it work and they believed that it was good for both of them, and then over time as they start to take over the business they realize that's not the case. So I think that in conjunction with the chemistry of Hope and Eric lends into this idea that Eric, much like Hope, shouldn't be with that partner. So Hope left Peter, she didn't marry him, and that would also end up being the case for Eric and Adriana, you know? And so I think like that was in play as well.
Yeah, and so he decides that he's going to do the play. His dad tries to tell him, "Oh, give it a year. Don't do this." And I mean, who knew that brokerage firms were so patriarchal? I guess
business is Succession. No, whatever TV shows I watch about business, all of it's stereotypical. I'm sorry, friends. I watch a lot of television.
So she ends up getting the choreography job, which is so exciting.
Yeah,
and
it's in London. I want to go to London.
Yeah. And they decide, oh, we're just going to cancel the dance because we're not looking into each other's eyes. It's not working. But he sits down with Adriana and he says, they say, I know why there's a disconnect. We don't want the same things. And I thought that this breakup was written so well. Mm-hmm. I thought Nina did such a good job of really, like, these are two people who love each other, who respect each other, who are going to be in each other's lives in the future. This is not, I don't know, I just thought it was very, like, as loving and as kind as a breakup could be written.
Yeah, and one of the things that sticks out to me is, so when I talk about relationships in my classes and we talk about breakups, there's obviously a lot of different ways that they can happen. You know, one of the ones that we hear about in the media is ghosting, where you just, like, stop talking to them. That would be pretty disrespectful for people who are engaged. If you're talking to someone via text for, like, 4 days, maybe not that big of a deal in comparison. But one of the things that we talk about is whether or not people who break up will be friends with each other after a breakup. And I could see Eric and Adriana being friends after the breakup, and here's why. Mm-hmm. If we're friends before we start dating and then we break up, we're more likely to be friends after, right? The other thing is the way in which the breakup happens. Right? Yeah. So if you get ghosted, you're probably not gonna be like, "Hey, let's hang, let's be friends." Like, no, you're like, "That's rude. You ghosted me." But sitting down and having a conversation and being like, "This isn't gonna work." So what I like about that, and the reason why I bring this up, is because it's an on friendship episode, and this is the first time I think I've seen a couple that was together that didn't work out, that you could truly see them moving forward as friends. That I saw Hope and Eric as friends until I didn't. that Adriana and Eric became friends, right? Like, there was lots of friendships. The one thing, again, I was missing is I think Cassidy should have been there more. And one of the things that I also think that I sort of noticed in movies, and again, being newer to Hallmark, people can correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't always see everyone having friends. So where was Adriana's friends? Where was Eric's friends, right? We see Cassidy.
Yeah, I think...
And there's a lot going on, like...
Yeah, I think that Gavin guy was supposed to be kind of, like I said, her sort of place to fall.
Yeah.
Like her, the person who's more aligned with her.
Yeah.
But because they got cut for time.
Yeah.
They didn't end up doing that. But yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I like the fact that this was so loving, and it was so obvious that it was not about Hope at all. Like,
yeah, absolutely. She was never a threat. She was never a threat. And but I do have to say, I would love to see some more friendship montage scenes at the very least in Hallmark movies. You know, the montage scenes, I mean, is something like where Hope and Cassidy are talking about something while they eat, and then they cut to, like, Eric talking about something with his friends, you know, where you have, like, a quick scene where everything's going on. That's where we can start. Doesn't take up too much time. It illustrates that friends are important when we're going through difficult times and making big decisions about staying with the business or investing in plays, staying with the dance studio or going to London to do choreography. And a lot of times people say, you know, I talked to my partner about that, but no one had necessarily that final partner, if you will. Like, okay, the partners we see are Adriana and Eric, and they have that conversation at the end, right? But people who aren't in relationships are probably more likely to rely on their friendships. People in relationships are still likely to rely on their friends. So if Hallmark could start with maybe just even, like, you know, appease Alysa with like a 2-minute montage scene, I would love it.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, it would
that would be really fun.
Because I want to see more of guys' friendships, though, too, right? Like, I think that's pretty important to see. Like, how does Eric Gunderson work through his life?
It would have been nice if he had a like a Dave Chappelle character to that Tom Hanks in You've Got Mail. You know, where you have your friend,
sorry, I forgot the
character.
Well, usually there is some sort of friend. Yeah.
Yeah. So, very, very true. And so then it's, she's in London, she's doing the show, he's gotten his play. I don't know if they actually said how long it's been.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, she thinks that he's gotten married, and he shows up there, and they're going to be putting on the play in London, and they've started a whole division of creative arts for Gunderson, so this is very exciting. And they have the dance, and it's the beginning of their relationship. And I don't know, I really like that, and I just think that this is a really good little romantic movie, and I think that the stars have chemistry, and I think it's really well made for a Hallmark movie, and so I really enjoyed it. And
you forgot one important thing, though, that by the end, he could dance.
Yeah, that's true. So
that end scene, I think, is critical because he's most comfortable dancing with Hope, and you see it.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
true.
Yes, he finally figured it out. As someone who loves dancing, you know, that's what I told Rachel. She was like, how about we watch this movie? And I was like, it's a dance movie, you're on, love it. I love dancing, so I'm always like, oh no, this is embarrassing, you know, it's gonna be cotillion all over again. But he proved himself in the last scene, so I thought the end scene was top notch in that sense. But overall, I enjoyed it. I do think that there was missed opportunities for some other friendship when it started out so positively with Cassidy being a major part of everything that was happening, right? That they had something in common. She was a dancer, she was a choreographer. Cassidy is the one that introduced Pope to the choreographer that would be working in London. Like, so Cassidy started off as a really important part of the story, and so that was mainly for me. Since we're watching this for On Friendship, if this was for Christmas movies, I wouldn't, bring it up. But
right,
as the friendship person here, I just have to say I wanted more Cassidy. But overall, I enjoyed it. I want to see more dance movies, movies that focus on dancing. For Hallmark, and if they exist, I need the titles. Because I remember the last dance scene that we spent probably 5 to 10 minutes talking about. What is our top movie that we've watched together with Jesse Metcalf?
Country Wedding.
Yes, I can never remember the titles.
Yeah, it's okay.
But there was a great dance scene in that movie that really advanced their relationship. Dance brings people together, so I want more.
Yeah, definitely more dance movies, more subtle movies about relationships that you don't have this like stark bad man of business and this the perfect hometown hunk. That can be fun too.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I feel like all of these characters are pretty realistic and could actually happen, and this relationship could actually happen, and I don't know, I think that's my favorite part about it. So
it's a good reminder.
I'd probably give this.
Oh, it's a good reminder too that men and women can have friendships that are not romantic based, and in this case they do end up together, but that was never the focus. It naturally happened, versus being like immediately them being into each other and looking and staring and all that kind of stuff that might come with it. So I like that about it.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5 crowns.
I'd probably, even though your words might have been more positive than mine, quantitatively I would score it in the same fashion.
Yeah, very good. Very good. All right. Well, thanks so much. Let us know what you think about this movie. We'd love to hear your thoughts and what you think of what we had to say about friendship and relationships and all that fun stuff. And maybe if you've had a good breakup story that you want to tell us about, we'd love to hear it too. So put it in the comment section.
Let's do a whole episode on breakup. I'm ready for that.
Yeah, so put it on Twitter or in the comments section. We'd love to hear it. And Alysa, where can people find you?
Yes, this is important because I'm going to need you to send me movies to watch to make my quarantine viewing list longer than Rachel's could ever be. But I can be found on my personal Twitter as Dr. Alysa Lucas, and then Best Forevers Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, so please check that out. Make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and if you're listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews, and if you're listening on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We also have our Patreon group, which is only $2 a month to join, and we have so much fun there, and we really appreciate that support. We also have our merch store, which has all kinds of Hallmarkies inspired merch, so please check that out as well. All that information will be in the description section. So thanks again, and we hope you're all doing well, hope you're all safe, and we'll talk to you all next month. Let us know if you have any ideas for On Friendship. Bye!